Welcome back to episode 9 of me getting my Coupe ready for the wrap, and today I will be block sanding my hood. Once I finish that, I'm going to add primer on top of that, and then I'm going to start working on the front fender. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on that thing. As a little short recap, I eliminated all the rust down to the bare metal, and then afterwards I added self-etching primer, filler primer, and then guide coat. Now what's left for me to do is to block sand it using possibly 300 to 600 to 1000, and then I'm going to clean it up, use automotive primer, send it off, and it should be good to go. I also opted into getting this little rubber sanding thing, and let's see how this works. Alright, I just finished block sanding the car. Now I just need to wipe it down, make sure it's clean, and then I'm going to add automotive primer. After that, wait a day or two, and then I will sand it again, see what needs to be fixed and what doesn't need to be fixed, and then we can move on to the next panel. Quite tired, as you can tell from my voice. But yeah, I just finished block sanding. I went from 400 to 600 to 1000. So as you can tell, it's quite smooth, and you can literally see by the reflection by how smooth it is. So it's a very good sign so far. I think I've definitely learned a lot from doing the front bumpers. Doing the hood was definitely a lot quicker, and I feel like I know a little bit more to what to do. So let's blow this off and get spraying. Alright, I just finished spraying the hood with the regular primer. Now, all I gotta do is just wait. And after I'm finished waiting, I can use the 600 grit to 1000 grit. In the meantime, while I wait, I am gonna continue moving on to the next panel so I can further the process or speed up the process so I can actually get towards the wrap. Now, which panel am I gonna be working on now? That is going to be my front fender, or at least the side piece. I'm not sure what they call it, but I'm just gonna call it the front fender. So this is right behind the front wheel. I'm going to be pulling off this piece. Now the reason why I'm going to be working on this piece specifically is because, well, there's a spot of rust right over here. Taking this specific piece off is actually quite simple. 4 bolts, 1 light. You got to push it backwards and then push out. That comes out. And then all you got to do is just figure out how to disconnect that later. Oh, perfect. Once you pop the hood, which is over here, this is the front door right here. There's 2 bolts over here. Use your 8mm wrench. Now for the other side, that's right next to the hood strut over here. So the 3rd bolt is going to be located once you open your car door. You can see a visible hole here. However, as you notice, I have a little wrench with an 8mm. That is not going to fit in this hole. Now this should work. Now the last bolt is going to be behind here. You can kind of feel it with your finger. You really need to kind of do a guesswork of where it actually is. What the? Okay, keep in mind there is a little swasher here, which is fine, but dang! There is a lot of stuff here. Now if you see over here, this is all the stuff that was trapped in between, the fender and the inside of the panel. This could be due to the fact that I don't have a front fender liner, but I'm gonna go ahead and clean all this stuff. So this is my front fender. Let's go ahead and take a look to see what we're working with and where all the rust spots are. Initially, I was going to work on this little piece over here, but when you turn it around, this little spot here also has rust, which I can also repair along with down here. I will repair all of that. While my hood dries, I am going to start the repair process for this piece and see, hopefully the rust didn't spread too far. Some bad news. I was working on the front fender and it looks like I am really late to repairing the rust. The rust has definitely seeded in very deep into the fender, and quite honestly, it might be more worthwhile for me to just purchase a new one. As much as I don't want to do that, but it seems like that will be my best approach in order to have a completely rust-free car. Kind of disappointed with this happening because I was working on it, and as I was working on the other parts before I got into the biggest rust spot. Once I started getting into it, I realized that, well, it seems like there's really no point to going further with this specific fender. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about. So as you can see, this is the front fender piece, and if you look closely, you can see how far the rust goes, and it even disconnects this piece of metal right here, which I can. Oh, did it just come off? that piece of metal just came off. Okay, anyways. So yeah, this goes super deep inside. And on top of that, you can see that there's rust. You can see that there's rust over here as well. Quite frankly, I don't see a point in trying to save this. I think getting this on eBay is probably close to around like 50 bucks. I think I might just save myself some time and then get a new one, and hopefully the new one is free of rust. I'm gonna start looking on eBay. Let's check the other side and see what I'm working with too. Hopefully that side is not as bad. This could be a result of me also not having a front fender liner too. Thankfully, this fender on the passenger side is actually free of rust. There are some spots that kind of worry me, whereas there might be potential cases where it may rust, so I might just self-etch primer some areas to kind of match it, or at least where it's exposed metal, and then that should prevent any potential issues from happening. That being said, it is currently 12 a.m. once again. I am going to go home, I'm gonna clap in a few seconds, and it's gonna resume to the next day. And it is now the next day, and I'm pretty sure the primer on the hood is finished drying. So with that being said, now it's time for me to block sand it from 600 grit to 1000 grit. Afterwards, I can look at the front fender to see what I can do to prevent any further rust from happening on that specific piece on the passenger side. As for the driver's side that has a bit too much rust, I decided to buy a completely new one that's going to be arriving in 5 days. So let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so I just finished block sanding the hood from 600 to 1000 grit, and needless to say, I am very happy with the results considering what I've learned from my front bumper and taking it and moving it into the hood. I am super pleased with how this came out. After I sanded it a bit, I think I went a little too far in some areas and I did touch it up with primer. After that dries, I will, block sand it again with 600 to 1000 to make it super duper smooth. One thing that really helped me was putting water on top of the surface, especially using like a damp towel. When you brush your hand over, you can feel the imperfections on the surface using that thin layer of a little microfiber towel that's damp. So with that being said, I would like to say that this front hood is literally almost done. I'm very happy I did the front bumper initially because that literally sped up the whole entire process for this because I know what I'm doing now. So that's great. Time to look into the front fender now. Alright, so I just briefly cleaned this up and, well, judging by how it looks, it's pretty good. But there are a few rock chips and scratches that go to the bare metal. I think the best part about doing this whole entire project is that I can take my time and get everything up to my own standards. So this is perfect. I was gonna put this back on until I cleaned it up and I noticed that there was indeed a speck of rust over here in the back. Where my middle finger is, you can see. There's a speck of rust right over here. I'm gonna remove that before it gets worse. Also, there are some rock chips. I'm not sure if you can see it on camera, but there is a scratch right over here. Not sure if you guys can see it, but I'm gonna fix all that and turn this into complete primer. All right, so just finished removing all the surface rust on the front fender on the passenger side. As you can see, there's rust over here, and I found a little rust spot over here, so I'm really glad I took it off and actually fully examined it before just putting it back. There's also minor spots around the areas like, yeah, I think that was about it. Yeah, this spot that I believe this was a rock chip, then this is rust and rust. So now it's time to wipe this off and use self-etching primer along with filler primer, then the automotive primer. Doo. All right, the passenger front fender is now done. I just finished spraying all the self-etching primer, which you can see over here. I didn't add filler primer on this side. And then on this side, self-etching and filler primer. So I just need to wait for it to fully dry so I can block sand it from 600 to 1000 and then add another layer of automotive primer, 600 to 1000. And after that, this will be good to go. I can move to the side skirts. But before I move to the side skirts, I'm gonna wait until I get the new piece for the driver's side to see what I'm working with. And then I'll move to the side skirts, or I might just move to the side skirts while this is done. So let's move on to the front bumper and fixing the crack now. Now it's time to fix the front bumper crack, which is still cracked over here. As you can see, this is the crack right here. I did my best to clean up all of the previous repair job so I can do it again or do it better so that I can completely hide the crack. So now I'm gonna remove all the primer around the area with probably an 80 grit pad, and then yeah, should be able to get this all cleaned up and prepped up. Now we need to heat up this piece over here, attach this, add the putty on top, and then we can fill in the holes. So essentially all you had to do was to mix up the liquids or the two things, and then once you mix it up, you put the metal sheet in the back. You don't want it to be in the front. It's gonna add a layer on top of the front, so you don't want to do that. You just need it in the back to support it. Once you fully add all the gabagoo and fill up all the holes, this will harden within the next 2 days, and this will be sandable. All right, so I just finished repairing the front bumper. This is more of the appropriate bumper. I filled up all the holes with the repair bumper kit thing, and so I'm gonna wait for 2 days before I actually revisit this. In its current state, it definitely filled up the entirety of all the cracks on there, along with the holes that were used for zip ties to kind of hold it apart. So now I just need to wait for this to harden for around 2 days, and I can get to sanding on this to fully get it like super smooth. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Like, comment, subscribe. Deuces.